The word gifted is really a mislabeled term as it applies to gifted and talented. While educators tend to focus on special education students who need extra attention, gifted and talented students also need extra attention. Kazimierz Dabrowski studied gifted and talented students and found that as fast as these students take in information, they are also processing other sensations, such as they relate to psychomotor, sensual, imaginational, intellectual, and emotional. Dabrowski found that these students were usually advanced in one area, like math, but severely behind in another, like writing. Gifted and talented students may also fall under the category of twice exceptionality. The student is both gifted and has a learning disability. The learning disability usually helps the child cope with the giftedness, and the giftedness ends up hiding the learning disability. So really they never get labeled as either, almost like they cancel each other out and you don't know what you're looking for. This student can be someone who isn't reaching their full potential or is starting to fall behind when teaching method is changed. In this map, we see that gifted programming is mandated by some states and not mandated by others. In the states in green, gifted programming is mandated and fully funded by the state. In the states in purple, gifted programming is mandated and partially funded by the state. In the states in orange, gifted programming is mandated, but no gifted funding is available. In the states in yellow, gifted programming is not mandated and gifted funding is available. In the states in red, gifted programming is not mandated and no gifted funding is available. Gifted education, a national overview. 3 million students are labeled gifted and talented in the United States. 3/4 of those students are white and Asian, while only 1/4 of the gifted students are Hispanic and African American. 360,000 students have both a disability and are gifted. 9 out of 10 teachers would like some kind of professional development in gifted education. There's no federal investment to support gifted education. Schools in the United States are heterogeneous and designed for the mass majority. For schools that do not have gifted and talented programs, they leave their students unchallenged. They are stimulating gifted underachievers that have low self-esteem and self-concept. They lack motivation and interest in school assignments and activities. They have poor study habits, and they lack social maturity. Schools without gifted and talented programs lack opportunities for students to focus on their strengths and don't meet their individual needs. For gifted and talented students, some universities like Hopkins, Duke, Vanderbilt, Iowa, Denver, and Northwestern offer the SAT to be taken by 7th graders annually. Students that score 700 or above, the average for a college-bound high school student, may take up to 2 college courses. It used to be students could just skip grades, but today students are offered AP or honor courses, opportunities to take classes in community colleges and local universities, and early entrance into universities. For those schools who do have gifted and talented programs, they fall outside of the classroom and only meet for short periods. They have their own curriculum and do not adhere to classroom curriculum. They are faster paced and teach students problem-solving methods. They allow students to work in a space that's both challenging and with peers on their level. Programs like this, like Young Scholars, exposes students to humanities while integrating math and science using a concept-based curriculum.
The Gifted and Talented program is not as diverse as you would think. Just to reiterate, there is a pretty big disparity in representation between white and Hispanic/African Americans in the GT program. One of the main reasons for the underrepresentation of minority students in the GT program is the lack of training and identification of GT students and limited training with culturally diverse students. According to the Institute for Educational Advancement, the lack of diversity may also be due to the fact that the more culturally diverse students are enrolled in schools that are underfunded, lack a rigorous curriculum, have fewer educational resources, and often employ less experienced teachers. These schools may neglect their gifted students because they simply do not have a GT program. GT students excel in some aspects, but may struggle in certain social-emotional facets. According to the National Association for Gifted Children, parents and other adults that interact with these students need to be made aware of the students' heightened awareness, anxiety, perfectionism, stress, issues with peer relationships, and concerns with identity. In order to meet the needs of gifted students, teachers will need to compact and differentiate their lessons. Compacting is defined as condensing a semester or year's worth of learning into a shorter period. Differentiation is defined as providing gifted students with different tasks and activities than their age peers. In 1901, Worcester, Massachusetts opened the first special school for gifted children. In 1905, French researchers Binet and Simon developed a series of tests, known as the Binet-Simon, to identify children of inferior intelligence for the purpose of separating them from normally functioning children for placement in special classrooms. Their notion of mental age revolutionizes the science of psychological testing by capturing intelligence in a single numerical outcome. In 1916, Louis Terman, known as the father of the gifted education movement, publishes the Stanford Binet, forever changing intelligence testing in the face of American education. In 1925, Louis Terman publishes Genetic Studies of Genius, concluding that gifted students were qualitatively different in school, slightly better physically and emotionally in comparison to normal students, superior in academic subjects in comparison to the average students, emotionally stable, most successful when education and family values were held in high regard by the family, and infinitely variable in combination with the number of traits exhibited by those in the study. This is the first volume in a 5-volume study spanning nearly 40 years. 1954. The National Association of Gifted Children is founded under the leadership of Ann Isaacs. 1958. The National Defense Education Act passes. This is the first large-scale effort in gifted education by the federal government. 1972. The Marland Report. The first formal definition is issued encouraging schools to define giftedness broadly, along with academic and intellectual talent, and the definition includes leadership ability, visual and performing arts, creative or productive thinking, and psychomotor ability. In 1983, A Nation at Risk reports scores of America's brightest students and their failure to compete with international counterparts. The report includes policies and practices in gifted education, raising academic standards, and promoting appropriate curriculum for gifted learners. In 1993, National Excellence, the Case for Developing America's Talent, issued by the U.S. Department of Education, outlines how America neglects its most talented youth. The report also makes a number of recommendations influencing the last decade of research in the field of gifted education. In 2002, the No Child Left Behind Act is passed as a reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. The JAVITS program is included in NCLB and expanded to offer competitive statewide grants. The definition of gifted and talented students is modified again. Students, children, or youth who give evidence of high achievement capability in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, or leadership capacity, or in specific academic fields, and who need services and activities not ordinarily provided by the school in order to fully develop those capabilities. In 2006, NAGC publishes National Gifted Education Standards for Teacher Preparation Programs and Knowledge and Skills Standards in Gifted Education for all teachers, and in 2013, the standards were revised.
In Austria, Gifted students are kept within the regular class and receive special attention through enrichment, workshops, individual mentors, or various pull-out programs regarding language, mathematics, science, music, or sports. More than 60 schools in Vienna are gaining experience with a special teaching style called free learning. Within this type of learning, students check their work results themselves and reflect on their individual progress. The teacher acts as a knowledge broker in the background and instead advises and provides support to individual pupils or programs in this learning process. Skills such as active, independent acquisition of knowledge, creativity, flexibility, cooperation, and reflectance are acquired and practiced gradually under the free learning style. The teacher shifts from teaching to observing the students and controlling the learning processes. The teacher acts as a facilitator. They stand aside as a supervisor in the performance of their work and help to support them in the analysis and evaluation of their results. An early exit from school is also possible, including permission to attend university. This can be obtained at an age of 15. Up to now, more than 600 teachers have completed successfully a 500-hour training. Gifted education has a long tradition in Hungary. Nurturing the talented was a priority in the early 20th century after World War II. Next to the basic curriculum, schools have to organize extracurricular activities like day or afternoon study periods, literature circles, conversation and debate classes, art and acting courses, academic, cultural, or other competitions. Acceleration is not common in Hungary. Enrichment is a preferred format for making provisions for the gifted. The tutorial system, or individual out-of-school mentors, is becoming an established format for nurturing talent. Since 1995, a 10-day summer camp has been run in Budapest. It aims to support the development of the individual gifted student. The summer camps provide the opportunity to experience personal freedom to experiment, play with, and study physiological and astronomical phenomena. The government regulates the teacher training program. It includes the following topics: identification, giftedness in age, giftedness in creativity, school programs for gifted children, the cooperation of school and family, under achievement of gifted children, the special role of teachers in gifted education, special fields of gifted education such as sports, music, and math, and the international horizon of gifted education. The students deal with these topics generally in 20 to 30 contact lessons during teacher training at university level. Since 1997-1998, the University of Debrecen has offered a Teacher of Gifted Education program. This is a 4-semester postgraduate in-service training of more than 600 hours. In Finland, there are several options for students that are gifted. There's early entrance to school, shared classes with higher grades, group-wise acceleration, workshops, cooperation with companies or nonprofit organizations, extracurricular activities, individual mentors, and self-study. Finland follows a strong direction towards individualization. As a result of this trend, schools have been encouraged to draft more individual curricula. Another possibility for acceleration is the ungraded school, which allows pupils to advance in their studies with a flexible schedule. This ungraded system has been in use in most of upper secondary schools. Education from kindergarten up to university level in Finland already has a special structure. Teachers at all levels receive an academic professional training. In addition, an educational program of differentiation is standard from kindergarten onward. This means that all children are already educated according to their individual development and learning needs. This is the core principle of gifted education. In this respect, the Finnish educational system is highly developed with regard to education. In Singapore, the Gifted Education branch of the Ministry of Education determines if a child is exceptionally gifted by looking at 4 sets of information: a psychological report, achievement and aptitude/above-level test scores, samples of the child's work, and teacher recommendations. The Ministry of Education formally identifies the academically gifted and caters to the top 1% as a national cohort. Interventions for gifted children are extensive. These include enrichment, self-paced instruction, mentorship, subject acceleration, dual enrollment, early primary school admission, and grade skipping, which is allowed up to 4 levels.
The national government has expanded its gifted education policy to attract the best and brightest from other countries to settle into Singapore. Rising star primary, middle school, and high school students with talent in math and science are identified in Singapore and other Asian countries. These students are eligible for Singapore's national government sponsored scholarships and fellowships all the way through to doctoral study.